So I'm not going to share a screen yet. I'm just going to talk to you a bit about the rationale of Phoenix. So Phoenix is what Caleb is going to introduce in 2 minutes, which is a process that includes a platform or a dashboard that automates a huge number of posts and tweets and allows a peace builder to analyze it with the aim of designing interventions to tackle conflict online, so digital conflict. So just to take a step back to talk about why do we need this? And originally at Build Up, we had gotten to a place where we were doing a lot of social media assessments for partner organizations. So partner organizations are just like Build Up are organizations that are interested in peace, and some of them specifically digital peace or tackling digital conflict. And at some point we thought, why do we have today so many tools and online platforms that allow us to understand who's following us and how to market to better audiences and how to set my outreach parameters to reach exactly this type of consumers and so on, with the aim of promoting consumerism or enhancing my consumer base or those who buy or consume my products or services. And we never ever met a tool that can help us do that with the only aim of intervening in conflict situations or preventing. So the ability to see a specific trend or pattern in conversations online that can lead to conflict or from experience have led to conflict. So how can we see them? How can we stop them, prevent them, but also tackle them? And how can we do this on a huge number of pages and posts and tweets and not make it manual? So make it automated and also make it cheap. And this is why we're here today. Caleb is gonna now introduce us to Phoenix, which is the process. We call it Phoenix, obviously, but it's a process that includes this dashboard. Caleb, I'm gonna hand it over to you. And after Caleb finishes, we're gonna show you the dashboard so that you have a better idea about what we're talking about, and then do a small exercise together on how we can look at it. Go ahead, Caleb.
Thank you very much, Chris. So let me just see if I can share the slides very quickly. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So yeah. So again, just to cover what Chris said, Phoenix is social media programming developed for and by peace builders, and it's more of a process. So we don't usually like to focus on the specific digital platform. So that's why I'll just walk you through very quickly the ideology behind it, so that you get to understand what it entails before we even show you the tool. So very quickly, just a second. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So the idea, this is an interesting quote that talks about, big data is more than a collection of technology, more than a revolution in measurement and prediction. It has become a philosophy and an ideology regime, one that determines how decisions are made and who makes them. It has even given legitimacy to a new form of social and political control, one that has taken the digital traces of our existence and found ways to use them to sort and manage population. Just something that, I thought, just to frame the context of Phoenix and, what it means to us as peace builders. So with Phoenix, this is it was a partnership. It currently is a partnership between Build Up and Data Valley people, and it's an open source, non-commercial, customizable process and tool to support peace builders and mediators who want to work, specifically with social media data to inform their programming. So it's not like, when people say this tool will give you a solution to your problems. No, it will not. It will just open the door so that you can continue, inform your programming. So next slide. So what is this Phoenix process? So one, the way we look at the Phoenix process, we divide it into a couple of steps. So we first identify problem statements that address peace building objectives. So what is your problem that you're trying to address, and how is it going to support your peace building objectives? And then from there, we create a data pipeline to other social media sources that you need to get to, to addressing your problem statement. And then after that, we customize that pipeline so that you're able to tag the data according to, your problem state. So for example, if you're identifying this information on COVID, you want to tag the information based on, for example, information that is about COVID, or information that is about vaccines, information that is about what happened to the, sorry about that. Yeah, information that is about vaccines and curfews and limitations and things like that. And then once we have that tagged data, we build a dashboard to be able to visualize that data, so that you're not looking at spreadsheets, but you're looking at data that now can speak to you. And then from that point, you're able to, I don't know why it keeps on jumping the slides. You're able to run evidence-based initiatives that respond to these insights. So problem statements, the way we look at them again is based on Build Up's experience and research across a number of contexts, and we use that experience and we conduct trainings on digital drivers and archetypes of polarization with local partners and people who we are working with. And once we are able to work with those partners and share our experiences and train them on digital conflict drivers, then we develop problem statements collaboratively with our partners using participatory action methods, so that you're not just saying, oh, I want to address misinformation, but really what is a problem, why this type of misinformation, how do you think you can address it, and we basically unpack what that means. And then we set up the data pipeline, which looks like first on the left hand side is the data sources. So we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and more, depending on your needs. So these are just the ones that we will be showcasing. And then like events data is also, if you have your own events data, we can include that in there. Right now we have ACLED, and then that data is pulled from its source as the raw data. And then we organize and anonymize this data because we know that this information is very sensitive, especially in different contexts. And this has two parts. One, it has manual labeling just for the system that you're building to understand what you're trying to monitor. And then once that is done, it's then automated. So then it's classified in an automated fashion based on the seed data that you've used to label. And then the end result is now a dashboard that then can be used to visualize the trends that you're seeing and things like that. And then we move next to the data sources. This is just an example like you just covered on the first one. So in terms of data sources, we collect Facebook posts from public pages and groups. And we also collect Facebook comments. And this is a manual assisted scraping process. So public pages and groups are, you can access that data through Facebook APIs or CrowdTangle APIs. But Facebook comments, you have to manually scrape them, but it's not as manual, it's semi-automated. Instagram posts, tweets from handles based on keyword search, or if you have specific list of handles that you want to analyze. YouTube videos from channel lists or keyword searches that you want. And YouTube comments from the specific channel list, events from ACLED, and the list goes on depending on what you're trying to look at. But we don't access private conversations like on WhatsApp and things like that. We all look at public content. So the next step is once you collect that data, we automate the classification and inference. So what we want to do basically in this process is we want a higher level classification taxonomy of discourse samples. So for example, when you look at a post, you want to say that this post is about identity in your particular context, right? And then that post is tagged as an identity post. So you can use a topic, for example. So this enables us to look at aggregate statistics of macro system behaviors along with investigations at micro level. So you can say, for example, in this last month, majority of social media actors in this community were talking about COVID or, identity issues and things like that. So you're able to basically infer, such information. And then we use rule-based and statistical classification models for text relevance, subject topics, hate speech, type of conflict, online behavior. So if a post contains this, then it is done. So and this is done with different partners as the data is being analyzed, so that people who are looking at social media context in different contexts have that knowledge to be able to classify data based on their own local knowledge, because some things are very nuanced and easily missed. And then we also have a classification for actor and affiliation labeling from pre-identified lists. So you look at, for example, a Facebook page that is owned by, let's say, CNN, then we label that as media, right? So then another one that is by a politician, then that is labeled as a political actor, or things like that, depending on what makes sense at that point to the local whoever is going to be using the dashboard. And the idea is, you're able now to look at social media content from all media actors that you have on your dashboard and say that majority of the media actors are actually talking about this issue while ignoring this other issue. So you're able to make such inferences. And then we have like another element of interrogation of existing classification and language sentiment models. So what this means is, we also look at sentiment on specific posts and classify them based on negative, positive, and neutral, and some that have like a mixed element of both. So this, you're able now to take, for example, Facebook data and look at it from a topic level and say, these topics are being discussed from an actor level and from a sentiment level. And then start to draw inferences and say, when people are talking about COVID, majority of the conversations are negative or positive. And then you're able now to dig deep and ask yourself why. Next slide.
This will make a lot more sense when you see the dashboard. It must be confusing now, but it will make sense in a bit.
Yes. So the dashboard has basically some what we call like tabs. And those tabs are divided into these 4 areas. So the first one is engagement. So we look at the actors, the topics, the top posts, the comments, and the tweets. And this is more of like it's like the overall metrics. And then now we dive to a second tab that looks at the sentiment. You say, okay, by topic, you want to see this topic that we tagged earlier on COVID, what are people saying about it? Is it negative? Is it positive? And then we also look at networks of actors. How are they connected and how are they talking about this specific topic? And then now, if you want to go further, we also have a tab that aggregates all the raw data and allows you to pull it down into an Excel file and do your own analysis beyond what the dashboard can do, because some of you maybe have like other technical expertise. So we are going to just before we dive into that, I just want to before we dive into the dashboard very quickly. So the idea behind the dashboard, it's based on built up experience and research across a number of contexts. Training on social media analysis and what people usually ask us as we're training them. Training on strategies to bridge divides in conflicts settings and humanize relationships online, and accompaniment and mentorship of pilot initiatives based on our Peace Innovators model. So it's a culmination of experiences from this. Yeah. So we can get into the metrics a bit later, but I just want to dive into the dashboard right now so that we have...
Yes, let's do that. Can you stop sharing so I share?
Yes.
I'm so excited for it. Okay, so just a moment before we start sharing, so just to reiterate, so this is what we're going to show you is going to be a test dashboard. So it's not a dashboard that is used by any one of our partners. It's just a sample test that we took some data to play with. And it was, so the partner who had asked for this data to be collected is from Lebanon. And the interest was, or the scenario under which we will be looking at this data was, our partner wanted to know, how can we know more about what people are saying when they talk about refugees in Lebanon? And when they talk about refugees, what other topics are they talking about alongside the topics of refugees? So for example, in Iraq and Kurdistan, when we ran this assessment, we saw that, for example, the identity is mentioned a lot alongside topics of oil and budget in Iraq, for example. So here the partner wanted to know, what do we talk about when we talk about refugees, and how do people interact or react on this conversation, but also who's talking the most about this? And the aim was to gather enough information to intervene online. And at the end of this exercise, we'll talk about more about the interventions. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Cal, I don't know where I need to go. That's the...
Go to apps.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot. Thanks, Cal. Okay. So this is the screen. Sorry. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is the dashboard. this is the result of the dashboard. And I just need to repeat and make sure this is clear to everyone that all of the work is an analyst that sits behind the laptop and chooses the data sources and chooses the topics of interest and chooses the way they're gonna classify their actors, their topics, and so on. So this is not something that we do. It's not subjective. It's really the partner organization that wants to look at a statement that says, I love pizza, and one organization can label it as food, another organization can label it as love for food, a third would be pizza. So it really depends. Each organization chooses differently. So keep that in mind as you look at this data, because it's subjective to the partner. So in this specific dashboard that we're looking at, first I'm just going to show you very quickly. These are the tabs that Caleb was just talking about. So we have topic and engagement analysis, and we'll look into it in a second. We have sentiment analysis. So looking at the sentiment, it's going to take a okay. We have the network graphs, which is, like, for me, the most interesting part of the entire dashboard, but that's a very biased opinion. And we have the raw data. The raw data is the actual qualitative data. So if you don't want to look at visualizations and numbers and quantifiable data, you can actually look at the post and at the comments that are just constituted of words and learn more about them. It takes a bit to load because there are millions of posts behind it. So we're going to start with topic and engagement analysis. So what our partner here wanted, but other partners might not wanted, was they wanted to filter everything we see online with either a post, a tweet, a video that aims at triggering violence or triggering tension or triggering hate. So saying, all refugees must die, or let's all meet in Beirut at 7 p.m. to hit some people, like any message that the aim of it is to spread hate, fear, or instigate violence or conflict. And those that don't have attention. So for example, it could be a piece of news about refugees, but it does not necessarily trigger tension. So it could be, and we'll see this in a second, because there are some news channel, for example, let's say I'm a news channel and Caleb is a news channel, and the issue is that refugees are suffering from the very cold weather in Lebanon. One news channel can say a number of refugees have passed away because of the cold weather and so on. Another news channel who's very biased, and you're going to see it now, will instead say, refugees, come, take our food, take our warmth, and then we need to also bury them in our country. So the way the message is framed, the choice of words can trigger negativity, and we'll see how in a second. So here, we create a lot of filters that allow you to turn on and turn off. And obviously, we know in the laptop language, the software language one is on. So this means we're looking now at all posts. So everything we see now here has tension. Okay, it's tagged as has tension. These were the topics I'm gonna put one because this means the topic is about refugees. So that we dig deeper into specifically the conversation around refugees. And the month is August. I chose August, and the year, no, it's going to be 2021 because it's the same data set from that time. So what we're looking at here, this partner wanted to look at Twitter and Facebook. We have other partners that look at Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, some Instagram as well, but we haven't tried with Instagram yet, but we're working on it. And now we have YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. On this dashboard specifically, we only have Facebook and Twitter. So how we can read this is, we start with the total number of Facebook's posts. So from the total number of pages that our partner wanted to monitor, and these are some of them, you can see them here in the top 5, there were 212 posts in the month of August 2021 that were talking about refugees and had tension in them. So had the aim of triggering tension, whether conscious or unconscious is irrelevant to the analysis. And the total number of comments on these posts, on all of them, is 190. On Twitter, however, we only have 74 tweets in the month of August talking about refugees with tension, and they were retweeted for 193. For the retweets, we're going to see in a second the network graph that allows us to see who's retweeting who and who's talking to who, and you will really be able to see the echo chambers, like how groups are divided online and they each talk to their own groups. So we go to, this is like, as Caleb said in the introduction, this is kind of like the general data, the general numbers we can look at. So here we have the top 5 Facebook pages by number of posts, again, that talk about refugees and that has tension. So these, from everything we collected, this is, we call it dakhili. This is for a political party in Lebanon, the Socialist Political Party in Lebanon, who has posted the most. So from the 212 posts, they had 23 posts in the month of August alone on refugees and had tension. The Mawqa Yasur, these are the 3 top, like it's in Arabic, but they're all media. Saida Online as well is media, Kura Online is media, and Lebanese Presidency is the page of the President of the Lebanese Republic, who posted 9 times about it. Just a bit of context, in August, it was in Lebanon, a year ago, we had the massacre that was committed by the Lebanese government against the Lebanese people by exploding the Beirut port. So in August, the conversations weren't necessarily about refugees. And this is why, if we compare it to other months, we saw a very different behavior in the posts and the tweets. But this month, specifically in 2021, it had been the 1 year since the explosion. So top 5 Facebook posts, Facebook pages by number of comments. So who gets the biggest number of comments? And we can see Samir Jaja. Samir Jaja in this phase, he's the head of a political party, a right-wing Christian political party in Lebanon. And in this phase specifically, he was very vocal about his opposition to the Assad regime in Syria. And therefore, there were a lot of posts on his page on the topic, and the total number in August is 3,229. And we also saw, like, I'm going to share some analysis. We also saw that that Samir Jaja is, probably the only page that is very, very strongly attacked or visited by commenters from other camps, as opposed to other political or politicians in Lebanon. And then we look at Twitter. One common practice we do is also compare Facebook to Twitter. So here we can see that the top 5 Facebook pages by number of posts is different than the list of Twitter accounts by number of tweets. So here we have Lebanon 24, who we couldn't even see in the top 5 in Facebook, although they do have a Facebook page that is very active. And here the by number of retweets. So we can look at these a lot. I just want to show you the topics. So here we can see that in August in Lebanon, the topic that was most discussed on the data sources or on the pages that our partner wanted to monitor was the economic collapse. So there were in total 96 posts about it from the 212. And there were 38 posts about Lebanese political party. And here, when we look at this data, we look at it together. So we say it's not 212 minus 96, because the same 96, some of them can also be talking about Lebanese political party, and they can also be talking about the Lebanese fuel crisis and Beirut and so on. What's interesting here to see is that the topic of Syria is really like, I don't know, like this 10th most commonly discussed topic, and we don't see refugees anywhere. If we look at Twitter, because usually it's a bit different. So on Twitter, the 3rd topic is Syria, whereas on Facebook, it's the 10th. On Twitter, we see Assad regime in the top 10 topics, most discussed topics, whereas on Facebook, I'm not sure we saw the Assad regime at all. I see it's the last. It's the last 3, the one before it's before, it's here. It's here. So this is also like different behavior. So we can understand, okay, where is polarization happening? If this conversation is not even mentioned on Facebook, then maybe polarization is happening on Twitter and not on Facebook. And then, so here as well, it's very interesting to see what people retweet the most. And Lebanese healthcare system in August was retweeted the most, and Syria as well, whereas the tweets were about mostly economic collapse, Lebanese fuel crisis, and Syria. What people retweeted was about the Lebanese healthcare system, obviously, because there's a collapse in the country, and about Syria and arrestations, because it was a wild month of attacking activists in Lebanon. So here we can also filter by topics. So these are all the topics that that our partner was interested in and used to label topics posts with. And I'm not going to filter with them. I'm just going to show you the function that these were the 5 posts that were shared the most on Facebook in August. So this post, the first, it includes the topics of Beirut, the Lebanese political party, and smuggling. And just because a bit of context as well, smuggling and arrest was very common in August because there was a peak in smuggling gas and petroleum from outside Lebanon to Syria. So this is another context of why we can see Syria more than refugees and smuggling as well. And North Lebanon, at some point, we saw North Lebanon as a topic as well. Second, the most shared post is about international organizations, Occupied Palestine, and the Lebanese political party, which in this case was the political party of Amal, the Speaker of Parliament in Lebanon. And the third is about Lebanese political party for the Samir Jaja. The fourth is about foreign countries and Lebanese political party, and it's the same political party that we just talked about. And the last one, the most shared, is about arrest and Lebanese healthcare system. So it's a bit indicative of, okay, this post is gonna be about corruption in the healthcare system and then an arrestation as a result. And then we can dig deeper to understand why or what they were about. These are the same. So we look at the posts that had the biggest interactions, including likes and comments. And this one is, and shares. And this was only comments. So on the topic of comments, the post that got the biggest number of comments in August 2021 was a post about what the president said. And it included Beirut port explosion, COVID vaccination, economic collapse, foreign country, international organization, which I think was the post where he, when he spoke for August, when it had been a year. So this is what we can see on the first page, and I just wanted to share with you as well this very interesting timeline that personally I use a lot, and Caleb is the founder of this great visual, is to see when there were peaks. And here, for example, in August 2021 in Lebanon, August 11 was a peak. We had another peak here on August 27, where suddenly all of the pages we're monitoring, or most of them, posted. As opposed to, for example, August 8, where there was only one post from over 80 pages we're looking at. And obviously, August 4 would be as well, would have been a peak, but I think people weren't posting about it as much this year. Tweets, the same thing. So here we have like 27, and then how this could help you. For example, we saw on 27th and on Facebook there was a peak, and on Twitter there was a peak. So then we can go and dig deeper into it, and obviously we can click on it and we can drill down to the week and see what are the posts that constitute this peak. Another thing we put up on the dashboard to help peace builders is as well, as you know, ACLED, which is a platform that gathers all the info about conflict or events that are happening offline. So what we do is we take that data, and then we take the data that we have from social media, and then we match it to see if there's any correlation between the conversations happening online and what's happening offline, whether the online is what led to the offline or the other way around, just to look at if there's any indication of that. And here we see, like on August 12th, there was a lot of reported events in Lebanon. There were 99. And on August 11, there was a peak as well. So is there a correlation between these two? And then we can go in and look into it more to understand what were the events that were happening here when we added them to the dashboard. So the same for Twitter as well. And here's just a visualization of the offline events that we see here. What are they? Where are they commonly happening? And what type of event is that? I'm gonna pause for a second, just to see if like, how do you feel? I'm talking a lot. Is it very fast? What are your thoughts? And then I'm gonna go back to sentiment. I think I took a long time. We're also open to have
there were some questions in the chat.
Sorry, but I can't see except my screen.
Yeah. So
okay,
anybody on the chat who had a question maybe wants to come on the mic.
Yes, please.
Because I was trying to answer some of them, but also just happy to hear.
Yes. So very quickly, like from reading now, unless someone, please just unmute and please come in. So Amy, so for Phoenix, yes, as Caleb said, I'm sorry, Caleb, just saying your reply. We organize one-on-one calls, but also we have a recorded video where we explained all of this with all of the team, including data value people, and we can send you the link later on if you can just leave us your email. We're happy to follow up with that. And for the languages, so far, Kamina, as Caleb said, we have English, Arabic, Kurdish, and we're working on other languages. I don't know, Cal, if you shared our secret of Swahili. No, you didn't. Okay. It's no longer a secret. But we're working on other languages as well. And obviously, we're not doing this on our own. And we have our amazing partners at Data Value People, but we also, because it's an open source and free dashboard, because that's our conviction and that's the only premise we would launch anything on. We collaborate a lot with developers and people who have figured out a way to understand sentiment in Arabic language or in English language and so on. And we collaborate a lot with designers and developers. How do you build the controlled vocabulary to classify the topic? So basically, what we have developed, I'm answering Bia. What we have developed is something that we really we're very happy with because it's very simple at the same time it's quite complex. So what it does is the system collects all of the posts of all of the pages you want to monitor, and then it takes these posts and turns them into text and gives you a list of these texts, but in a form that makes it a bit easier for you to read, in a form that highlights some words that were frequently used or that were frequently used alongside other words, which makes it also interesting, which is the word cloud function that we also have on the dashboard. I'd love to show you that as well. And then we give it to the partner organization. So we give that bulk of information to our partners who, as Caleb mentioned, Phoenix is not just the dashboard, it's also us walking alongside our partners to help them build their dashboard. And therefore, this process, they don't do it on their own. So we help them categorize the topics, identify which topics they're interested in, identify the data sources they want to monitor. And as a result, when you have the text, you know the context, and you have already classified your topics. It's just a matter of choosing the words that you would ask your system to tag as this or label as that whenever they see this in a specific context. It's a bit more complex than this, but to simplify it, it's like this. I think Ecclesia. I hope I said the word your name correctly.
Very close. Ecclesia, I had two questions, and I apologize if you already answered this. But with gathering data, would we have to pick the pages that we want it to follow, or does it do it on its own just by us picking like the keywords that we want to follow? It's both. Okay. Thank you. And then my second question was with the language, if I had a keyword that was just peace in English, would the data pull peace in Spanish and Arabic and everything as well?
I don't know, Carl, if you wanted to answer, I'll just say very quickly and let me know if you want to. No, go ahead and add. What I know is no. So if the word is in English, we use the keyword and search Twitter or Facebook with it. But we can also translate it into Arabic and all of the languages and search with them as well. So we can include all of the languages in our search. We're just saying the sentiment analysis is something that we're developing for the remaining languages, but in the search and categorization and labeling, it tolerates all of the languages, the system, the dashboard.
Yeah, I also wanted to jump in just on that. Yeah, so the way we look at it, well, so for example, it really depends on the data you've pulled. So if you've pulled data in Arabic and you type peace in English, it won't necessarily find the peace in Arabic. So what you do is just when Chris gets to the raw data, you will see how you're able to search the entire raw data by specific keyword. So if you want to see out of the data set that you've pulled, how many posts are talking about this specific words, and it will show you that specific data set, and it will show you by the number of shares, the number of like that, those posts that have that word have like the number of shares, number of comments and things like that. However, We've also developed sort of a word cloud, and this is we don't have it here, but what it does is it shows you, for example, on COVID, right? On the topic of COVID, which words appear together? So is it vaccines and masks? And we do that for all the topics that we identify. So like what Chris showed you, like if you have Syria, it can show you like 10 iterations of Syria appears with violence, and when it appears with violence, it appears with all these other keywords. So because the keyword is very, we don't have automated translation just for you to know you're looking for peace, and to do that, because it's more like, it's like, are you looking for phrases? Are you looking for, but if you have the specific word in specific language, it will actually filter all the entire data set and just give you posts that have that keyword.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to say we're taking all your emails and we'll send the email. I just want to apologize from now. The function of copy paste is not that easy, so I'm not able to copy paste your names. So I'm gonna be like, dear sirs and madams, please find here. So I hope that's okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to sharing unless there are other questions. We'll show you a bit the sentiment analysis part, which is super.
Can I just ask quickly,
Yes.
is there a general time frame that you look at the post, or is that kind of dependent on who's asking for the information?
Both.
Okay.
Also, Caleb, I don't know if you want to answer, but these are limitations from the platforms and not from the dashboard. So, for example, I think Facebook can go back as to 3-4 months, Cal? Is it?
No, it's Facebook goes back. But it depends with the Facebook data is pulled from CrowdTangle, so that goes back. I think I'm trying to remember how many months. No, it's actually a year. I think that goes back 1 year.
Twitter, 7 days.
Yeah, Twitter you do it for 7 days, but then it really depends also on if you want to get like the full Twitter pipeline. Also that is, for example, we discuss with you what that might look like in terms of the amount of data you might scrape. So it's possible to go all the way back to 4 years, even with Facebook, with the CrowdTangle like timeline.
Yeah.
So for this particular dashboard, it goes to 2021 when it started. We just started scraping, and they wanted to get the data from that point moving forward. So you'll also do like a historical analysis of data. But like I said, for Twitter, you can have the Twitter hose that goes all the way back to when it started. For Facebook, it's not as that, that doesn't go that far back. It has like a few months to a year or 3.
And can I add to this, Caleb? Once the dashboard is up and the data sources are registered in the system and so on, then the scraping is happening every day. So then you have like real-time data all the time. You can analyze it, well, not real-time. I think there's a day of processing time, and all of these details are covered in the walkthrough. But yes, you can go back a bit of time, but it's mostly to work as well ahead. But so far, the going back has been super helpful on Facebook. Like at least for the partners. Right now, we're working with 19 partners in 6 countries in the SWANA, and most of them are looking back at data to 3 months back. And it's so indicative of so many things to look back, and then because they want to design their interventions soon, so it's going to be very cool to like measure the past 6 months and do the analysis and assessment, design an intervention, and then go back 6 months later to see if it had an impact. This is like I'm personally very excited about the result. How does Phoenix determine sentiment? Let's see. So I'm going to start by sharing to look at the sentiment, and then we can go deeper into how. So just can someone confirm you can see my screen, please?
Yes.
Okay.
We can.
And Cal, please let me know if there are questions, because I don't see, I can only see the dashboard. Okay, so sentiment analysis. Caleb, you wanna take 2 seconds to talk about how we get to negative neutral on the language?
So I think, Chris, because you've dived into the weeds with this, you can if I miss anything, just let me know.
Okay.
So with the sentiment analysis, and also on the post, I think Elizabeth says, with social media analytics tools. So what we've also tried them before, and they, the sentiment analysis for many other tools are based on maybe like a core English language, right? And then you try to inherit those, that language into Arabic or something like that. So what we do is we go through the post, and the same thing like as topic, like Chris talked about. We look at the post and then we identify, is this post negative or positive? And then we look at what markers in those posts make them positive or negative. It's basically a justification. How do you justify that this post is negative or positive? So you run that through multiple posts as with the human tagger. And then now we run it through the automated system. Now the automated system takes a fresh data set and tries to basically machine learning to copy what the human has done. And then it's taken back to the human, and then the human has to verify accuracy of that machine. So if it's like 20%, then that means the machine needs to be trained again. So it continues like that. It's an iterative process to the point where you get to a level of accuracy where you say you're comfortable with it. So if you want to get to 100%, which is very, very difficult, you have to keep on working on the data. As you know, language changes every day. But then, so usually people sit between 80 to 100, 100 being the best accuracy on sentiment. But it has to go through this back and forth. So every time you're looking at sentiment, you're thinking, okay, the machine got it 80% correct. Because if you use the other ones, I mean, they're pretty crappy. We've tried them and they'll give you like only 2% correct. And you're thinking, how come it's, so it uses word association rather than keyword identification.
Yeah. I'll just add to this before I pass on the mic to Ecclesia. So as Caleb was saying, really the data is a lot of analyst work on a small portion of millions of posts that we can use to teach the system. And the more we can teach it, then if you have a bigger team, if you have like 4 analysts that can work on it at the same time, that you have we can train the system with 100,000 posts, then the data would be so much better. But to add to this, we collaborated a lot. There are many academic institutions today who are working a lot on analyzing discourse and messaging and linguistics, basically semantics, and recreating or creating an algorithm that allows us to identify the hostility, the aggressivity, the sentiment. There's a 4th one that I suddenly forgot, but they're working a lot on it, and we collaborate a lot with these minds as well. Could you reshare your sign again, please? Me too. Someone pulled me back. Yalla, I'm gonna share now. Okay. So let me show you the analysis. The sentiment, sorry. Analysis of sentiment. Okay, so this is the sentiment. I'm just gonna make it a bit bigger. So this is the overall on Facebook. Again, we need to always read this data as from the data sources we're monitoring. So it's not the general landscape on Facebook, it's specifically what we're monitoring. We see that generally the sentiment is neutral on posts, on 41,000 posts. And this is, I'm clicking all, okay? I'm not choosing relevancy. Maybe it's better to choose relevancy just to make it more smaller. Okay, so here we have 428 posts. So 84% of posts that had tension triggered a neutral reaction, whereas 14% triggered a negative reaction, 2% are positive, and there's mixed. So so different reactions from people. What I like the most about this dashboard is this graph that shows us along each topic that was discussed, what was the emotion that was triggered. And here we're looking at posts that have tension. So posts about Syria and have tension, the majority was neutral, but there's a big number that's also negative. But most importantly, if we look at what is the topic that had the most negative sentiment, it's Lebanese army security forces in August in 2021 in Lebanon. And this is very interesting. If you're doing the analysis with the intent of reducing conflict and hate and polarization online, this is very indicative. Also, the topic of occupied Palestine generated a lot of negative emotions because at that time there was a lot of expulsions as well of people from their homes in Palestine and occupied Palestine. If we go a bit down as well, we can see the topics by date and the emotion. So for example, this is September. I'm sorry, I'm talking quickly. We're running out of time. So if we look, for example, I don't know, September 8th, we have a higher negativity On September 17th, even higher, and September 25th, even higher. So it would be interesting to dig deeper into these and see why or what they were about. These are the same graphs, but based on the likes, the like function on Facebook, so love, haha, etc. And we can see that generally 89% is like, which we count as neutral, as the analyst behind it. Love, there's 5%, sad, haha, etc., angry. But this, which is also very interesting, if we look at this, for example, on the topic of the Israeli government, it's like. On the topic of Syria, we have a lot of love. Love is the most common button or like function. Here, South Lebanon, which is also interesting in September, it's mostly haha. And if we look deeper into it, we'll understand why. I want to see if there was a common angry. So Mount Lebanon, there's angry, Lebanese revolution. So posts about the Lebanese revolution triggered a lot of anger, emotion as well. I'm just gonna do this more quickly because we have some questions to ask you actually to do the exercise. And these are the retweets as well, the same as we saw for Facebook. I just gonna show you a graph, one of the graphs we do. We won't have time for all of them. So this is the network graph of Facebook topics. So what are the topics that are talked about together most commonly? Now it's we have another version of these graphs. This was the older version. So we can see, for example, here, Lebanese army security forces, foreign countries, and Lebanese fuel crisis. These three.
Chris, I
Yes.
think your screen hasn't changed. We're still seeing the dash. Yeah,
because I'm sorry, because it opened a new tab. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna put my entire screen. Okay, so here I'm showing you how the Facebook topics are talked about together. What are the topics that are talked about together? And here we can see, for example, to the right, to the bottom right, we can see Lebanese fuel crisis and Lebanese army and security forces and foreign countries. All three are being talked about together at the same time in the months of September 2021. Here we can see that COVID vaccination, economic collapse, Beirut, and I can't really read this, I need to zoom out, are talked about together as well. Here we have the Beirut port explosion and Assad regime and religious figure are also talked about together, which is very interesting. And there's also a rest that is very close to Beirut port explosion that is being talked about. This is the Facebook post network. I'm going to show you the retweet network. So who's retweeting who and who is following who. And obviously these you can play with the filters here and dive, take a deeper dive into it. This is going to take a second. So this is the Twitter friend graph, and this is one of the best way to visualize how people are divided online. You can see that all of these people follow together. So each color is a group of people that follow each other, and you can see the space in common is very few individuals that follow other people. I don't know if it's clear, but look, if we zoom into it, like here, there's to the left, there's a lot of purple, and only at the edge of the purple do we meet some of the blue and some of the red. You can see the orange dots, for example, they don't have a cluster, the orange dots. And then we can obviously zoom in and see who they are, the individuals or the groups. But if you zoom out like this, green and orange is they go into each other. So they're like two groups that are very, very flexible with one another. But the blue, the extreme blue to the right is really on the edge, and the purple is really on the edge. And then you can go deeper and understand who is on this side. In one of the analysis we did, we saw that the people that we were on the right were mostly, for example, The Economist, there was L'Orient Le Jour, like media channels that are mostly, that use Western language to talk or to write. And followers that were like francophone or activists and so on. And to the left, there was the followers of a political party, right-wing political party in Lebanon, and like all of the activists that follow this group and all of the politicians and all of their followers, like on the side, on the left. And you can see that none of them follow any of those sources of news that are saying another thing or that have a different discourse or a different reality or narrative. This is the retweets. Okay, I can zoom.
And I just say something, Chris, on that previous graph.
Yes.
Like there's a if you look carefully at the dark green nodes that are appearing on this graph.
Yeah.
These are, from our network analysis, these are some of the key actors to watch out for, especially if you want to have an engagement between different clusters or different polarized groups, because it seems to sit somewhere in the middle where they're not really moving to one side. They have like a step in each of the groups, and and also some of the oranges that are also cross-cutting.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Thanks, Kyle. Absolutely agree. And this is the retweet. So who's retweeting to who and who's talking to who? And here, like, we can see the echo chambers. We can see that no one's talking to anyone. Everyone's retweeting to their own audience who follows the same people, or maximum smaller other group to the right or to the left, but they're very separated from each other in the months of September on the Twitter handles we're following in Lebanon. And this is the topics. So this is the network graphs. And finally, the raw data, just like to show you that like how you can look at them. You can have, this is basically all of the data that we were seeing in visuals that's brought to you in tables. And that's it. This is it. So what do you guys think? I'm sorry, we took so much time. We only have 5 minutes left for questions, but we wanted to ask you, actually, we wanted to ask you if you think this is useful. Is this something that you can use in your peace building work? If so, does it lack anything? Does it miss anything? Is there anything you need to know more that you didn't see? We'd love your thoughts, to hear your thoughts on this. Please just unmute and share. Or questions or reactions.
Hi, yeah, quick question on the classification as tensions or not tensions, or the specific kind of sentiment analysis. Can you talk just a bit about the degree to which the platform is categorizing based on keywords versus how much of that is done by human analysis and classification?
All of the classifications are done by humans. So it's done by the partner, so the peace builder who's interested in this. We just give the tools, we just give the rationale on how to keep it generic, but also specific, how to be mindful of using these words, not those words, stemming, things related to linguistics, like go down to the core form of the verb, or like no conjugated. If you're gonna use nouns, how to use them, and so on. So we only give some guidance based on experience and the noise that we can get from not doing very, very, very detailed manual work at the start. And yeah, it's all the analyst, except for the sentiment. The system is just learning what the analyst is telling them to look at things and how to look at them. Thanks, Chris.
I have 2 questions, if possible.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
The first is the examples you're giving us. All this data is pulled from Lebanon, I assume, yes? But in the future, is there a plan to also have this, once you have more languages integrated, so that we can focus by country or make clusters of countries? And then the second question is, at the end there, you showed us the cloud, the purple, the blue, the green, based on who they follow and what kind of likes they have. Is there also a way to geotag that, which is, for example, show where all these same people who like the same things are living in Beirut, if they have that information available on the public post, for example? Because I know some tweets, some Instagram posts have geotagging and some don't. Thank you.
That's exactly, you answered the question, Eddie, actually, because geotagging, it is possible. No, we can make it possible. It's just when it's not public information, we never think twice about using information that's not public. And also, I don't think all of the platforms give us access to where the people are. But generally, we prefer not, like, whatever can put people in jeopardy because they didn't publicly share this info, we don't use. So gender, age, it's fine, but like gender and where they live, unless it's really we trust the partner and it's public information, we don't use it. I'm gonna pass on to you, Caleb, if you wanna add to this, just on the dashboard. So currently, this is Lebanon, yes, but we have now one up for Tunisia, we have one up for Yemen, Libya, Iraq, Kurdistan, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. Am I missing someone, Cal? Venezuela?
No, I think those are the ones are covered.
Yes.
We're just expanding to West Africa soon.
Yes, as well. So yeah, we're still expanding, but yes, we have for different countries and different languages. And yes, we can, like for example, for Iraq, because the peace builders we're working with are interested in reducing the polarization that's happening between Kurdish people and Arab people. So we did create two dashboards on the same dashboard. So they have a dashboard, the same one that we just saw, but that is split in half for Arabic posts and tweets and Kurdish posts and tweets divided by topics and so on, so that they are able to compare, but also to identify who they need to include in their conversations to reduce that, or what are the topics talked about and so on. Yes, I'm gonna, Caleb, can you, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll add.
No, I just wanted to mention the thing about geotagging. Yeah, it's definitely something that it comes up quite a lot, and there are some limitations with different platforms, and some platforms give you some geotag data. So it's always a question of, how do you balance that? So if you have that was a Twitter network. So if 50 of them had geotags and then you place them in there, it really feels sometimes out of place and not fully representative because of these other millions of tweets that don't have geotag. So you can end up inferring something by saying, this percentage are currently based in these parts of Lebanon, but really that inference will come with a lot of caveats. So, but still, if that's a point that somebody wants to look at, we can definitely pull it. But also, we also look at things like security for actors who, for example, are posting, misinformation on a platform, and you're able to map where they are. Like, the question is, who uses this dashboard at the end, and will they put these other people at risk, for example, and they open it up in the office and somebody's watching what they're doing, and they're able to pinpoint where the actor is from. So some considerations there that we're always happy to discuss with our partners, to let them know that these are the the risks and the limitations. Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle. How do you deal with non-API content, i.e. stories? So go ahead, Carl.
No, I was laughing because it's we look at as long as you have the text, right? And it's something like we can explore with the data set. So for example, like this other iteration that we're doing that has word clouds that look at the entire data set and just pulls it into text. So one of the things we can look at is perhaps looking at the stories that you share with us. How can we codify them and turn them into metrics? So for example, are there specific narratives that are emerging from the stories that are quite common, and we can look at that by just basic text algorithms, by either counting keywords, key phrases, key themes that appear on different stories, different actors who are sharing different stories and things like that. But again, we always look, this is just a tool. So beyond this, other actors will either want to use stories to address issues that they find on this platform. So then that can be something that we monitor on different platforms if they exist. So yeah, but definitely it will also be good to see what type of stories you mean when you say an API content. Do you mean just voice, or so always open to have those discussions.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know if I have time to respond to the API. I just mean that I don't know if content that we publish in stories on Twitter, on Facebook, sorry, not on Facebook or on Instagram, or we can extract through the API, because I guess they're not in the pipeline. I was wondering more about that. Like, how do you extract content from stories, even if you do find text within them? How are we able to then do what you do with the content of the posts themselves? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll give an example. Like for the comment data that is not pulled by API. That is done by a semi-automated tool that we have, that it's like a plugin to the dashboard. So the actors will identify the specific posts, like say like the top 10 posts that are very hateful, and they want to see the conversations below them. So then they use that to scrape that. So so for that data that is not pulled by API, we look for other plugins that then pull that information into the dashboard. Now, the one thing you'll notice is the dashboard is not a live dashboard in the sense that you can click and see the video running, for example, on an Insta story or a YouTube video. So what usually happens is if the content doesn't self-delete, then we either capture the link. So it really depends on the metric that the person wants to capture, and then they can either now view it like the way on the graph, view it like on a new tab. But the dashboard itself is set up to look at data in binary in terms of coded information, rather than like videos that then run and you want to see them live on the platform. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we need to close the session. We're past the time. We have everyone's emails, and we're gonna get in touch. Sorry again, because the email is gonna be dear sirs and madams. No, I never write that, but no, it's not gonna be personal. But I'm sure it's just gonna be a conversation starter between Cal, you, and us. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And for all the thank yous and the motivation. It's so nice. We work so much behind screens that like sometimes when we get validation, we feel like, oh yeah, maybe it's a cool thing what we're doing. Maybe we can reduce conflict. So thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, see you on the other side, hopefully on the email side.
All right.
Bye.